So welcome back to the Squire's workshop. Behind me, way out yonder, I don't know if I can zoom in on that or not, but anyway, you can see snow. I live in the St. Louis area. We got about 6 or 8 inches and everything is just pretty much buried right now, feeding the birds in the backyard. Yeah, so no run in the mill for a little bit, although it's supposed to be into the low 30s and then into the 40s and 50s actually next week, so this will all melt off pretty quick. In the meantime, we're going to go in the basement and turn some pins just to do something productive. Okay, so let's talk pens. So as you can see here, there's quite a variety of different pens. This one's Philabella. This is a dragon pin. These are 30 caliber bullet pins. This is called Celtic Twist. This is just a slimline. And then there's bottle openers, and there's all kinds of crazy stuff available for turning. To start out though, you need a kit. The kits, so this is a slimline kit here. This particular one comes from Woodcraft. Another place I get my kits is Penn State Industries, and just to go over here, these are acrylics, wood ones. These are a combination, so this is actually from my buddy Chuck. This is wood that he's stabilized in resin. This is a piece of ash that I actually made the blank. Going back over here, this one and this one and actually this one are all hackberry, so that's wood that I cut and made the blanks myself. This is walnut, also from something that I cut. So you've got a lot of choices available for where you get your blanks. You just need to make sure that they're thick enough to actually make the pen that you want. So like these two would not work for this because they're too narrow, or it'd be real tight. Might be able to do it. So you'd want a thicker blank. So I think these are like 1/2 or 5/8, where this one is 7/8. Same with these. These are all about 7/8, 3/4, 7/8, something like that. What do you need again to start turning pins? Well, you need the pin kit. You're going to need bushings. Let me grab some bushings. So these are actually slimline bushings. These came from Rockler. Again, 3 good places, by the way, to get supplies for your pens: Woodcraft, Rockler, and Penn State. Penn State is online. They ship. They're really good about it. They have a really huge selection too, so it's dangerous for me to go to that website. Anyway, Woodcraft and Rockler both have a good variety of stuff, different pen kits and different blanks. You'll also need a pen mandrel, and this is what mounts up all the individual pieces so you can turn them. The different size pins require different bushings, so you got to watch that when you get your pins or your kits, that you get the correct bushings. And then also, depending on the actual kit and the tubes that go through it, and you see the little brass tubes in there, is the size of a hole you're going to need to drill through your blank. So you're going to end up, and we'll do it here in a minute, you'll cut the blank so that it's the right size. So we'll cut it off here, and then we'll have to drill a hole through it so that we can stick those in there, and we'll glue those in, which brings me to the next thing. You need CA glue. I use Titebond Medium CA, works really good. And then you'll need a way to square off the ends of your blanks, and we'll get to that in a minute. That's actually another tool that I got. Rockler for sure carries it. I don't know if Penn State does, because I haven't looked, and I don't know about Woodcraft, but I think Woodcraft does. But they actually have a kit that has this mandrel in it. It has a set of bushings in it, and it has 3 of the slimline pen kits in it, and 3 pen blanks. So it has these too. And just depending on which one you get is depending on what's in it. I think that the ones that are in it are wood. Again, it's been a long time since I actually bought one of those. And then last but not least, you need a lathe. You probably don't want everything sitting on top of your lathe, but you need a lathe. So we'll get all that cleared off and turn some pins. Okay, so once we figured out what pin we're going to do, the next step is to pull out the brass tubes and then figure out what blank we're going to use. I'm going to use this one. So what I'm going to do is check that for square, but I'll mark on here where I need to cut these, and then actually let me do that since I got it on in my hand. So, oops, this one needs to be cut right there. They're both the same length, and then I allow a little bit for the blade width, and then mark it down there. So I'll cut it here and here, and to cut that I'll actually use my compound miter saw, just because that's what I have. I don't have my dust collection set up on it yet, so I won't get it cut. But big thing to remember with a power tool like this, when you're hitting these acrylic blanks, go slow, because if you go too fast, your blade will catch in that. It will shatter this and shoot it all over your shop. Don't ask me how I know that, because I won't tell you that it totally happened to me. I got in a hurry. What can I say? Alright, so the next step is to drill holes. So I'm going to drill through the end where I cut, although I'm going to have to do a little bit of shucking and jiving because of the chips, but not a big deal. We definitely deal with that. Plus, as thin as this is going to be anyway, those chips aren't going to make any difference at all. And part of that you can tell from the bushing, how thick the bushing is compared to how thick the blank is. So next step is drill. This particular kit uses a 7mm drill bit. Alrighty, so set up in the drill, 7mm drill bit. This press press tool actually comes from Rockler. It's not something you have to have. It just makes it easier. You can use the hand clamps, screw clamps, something to hold it so that this stays, so you get a straight hole through it. I'm going to run the vacuum cleaner while I drill this, just to keep the mess down. The other thing is, with the acrylics especially, you've got to go slow through them. If you build up too much heat on the drill bit, it can crack or shatter your acrylic. So watch that. Plus it's a good sharp blade, or drill bit. Yeah, got it a little hot. You can see the smoke coming off of it. Yeah, it even feels a little warm, not bad, but alright, so there's our holes drilled. Next part is to glue in the brass barrels. Okay, so our brass tubes are actually smooth, and that's not good for gluing in, so we're going to rough them up. This is just 150, and they don't have to be perfect by any means. You just want some surface to it. I know some people use 100 grit, just really whatever you got available. So you can see the difference there, hopefully. Alright, so now we need to get these in here and glue them in. That's where the medium CA glue comes in. And I actually use an old piece of plywood so that or whatever I got for scrap, so that I don't get CA glue all over my workbench, or in this case my table saw. So I'm starting about 2/3 of the way up, and I'm going to just coat the bottom part of this, those 2/3, with some CA glue, and you still got a little dripping off, and that's fine. When you go in here, oops, there we go. You really want to just go one direction with this, and then there we go. You want the end of that barrel even with the end of your blank. Do this again. Try not to make such a mess. Try not to glue my fingers to things. Once you start it down, keep going down. Don't come back out and go back and forth, because you'll end up filling that tube full of super glue, CA glue, super glue, same thing. Alright, and I use the Instant Bond. Spray all that and then let it sit. Next part is to get it loaded onto the mandrel. So this tool, if you can see it, is an end mill, and what it does, it goes down through the blank, and I don't know how you can see or not, but that brass tube doesn't reach all the way through, so we need to grind this end off and make it even with the end of the brass tube. So on the other end it meets. And you can run both ends, it's not going to hurt anything. I typically just run the one end. So that'll smooth that off, and then when we put it onto the mandrel, it will give me a good surface to go to for turning the pen. Okay, I did go ahead and clean up the ends of those. Alright, so we're going to try to grain match and keep the grain going. So with the 7mm pen, it really doesn't matter which end you want. I put 2 bushings on there again just for spacing. Put 1 bushing between them. Put your other bushing on. And then put another bushing on the other end. And get that on there nice and tight. So that's what we got. Again, the extra bushing, I probably didn't need it in this case, but for some pens you need it. The blank, a bushing, the blank, and then another bushing. This is a 7mm pen, so we're going to go right down to those bushings to get our thickness for our pen. Now we can do pretty much what we want in the middle here, but at the ends we want it to meet up with those bushings, otherwise it won't fit onto the pen right. And that's going to be real evident when you're looking at the end piece, and then there's a center ring, so you want to make sure all that meets up. Alrighty, getting set up here. It's a new camera position. I haven't tried that before, so we'll see how that works out. Hopefully not too close to the actual work. You're about a foot above it, so gearing up, so I'm putting on a face shield and hearing protection and to get my music going and trying to pen. Well, so what happened was right here it caught and chipped and blew that big section out, and I looked all over and I think it went in the dust collector, and I can't find it in the dust collector. So when that happens, that's a catastrophic failure, unfortunately. So that makes this unusable. You can see it was chipping a little bit here too. That happens with acrylics. I have acrylics that I have no problems with, and then every now and again I get one that just explodes. Stuff happens. So what I'm going to do is actually switch to a different one that I already had prepped, and turn that one to show you the rest of the process. So it's not going to be the same pen when it's all done. It'll still be a slimline though, so yay, fun. Again, stuff happens. Alright, so fortunately that's not something that happens very often, but it does happen, so just go to plan B. Just so you know, you can actually chip the rest of that off of there and put a new blank on it. Rockler and Woodcraft, and actually probably Penn State too, actually sell these tubes, so if you blow one up you can start with a brand new set of tubes, so it's not a total loss. Well, the blank is, the tubes aren't. Alright, let's go. Alright, so I was very careful to get down real close to the size of the bushing on each end. This one's still a little rough, but that's okay. It's because it was heating up. So next step is sanding, and I will actually sand these up to probably 600 and then use Triple E and Crystal Coat on it. I'll show you those when I pull them up. Actually, I'll show you them now. So I use this Triple E Ultra Shine, works really good as a polishing compound, and then I use Crystal Coat on top of that, and it ends up being really glossy and shiny. So let's get to that. Well, at some point the camera shut off, the battery died, but so it's been sanded 150, 220, 320, 600, and then Triple E Ultra Shine, and then Crystal Coat. Very generous with the Crystal Coat, but this is what it looks like right now. So the next step is to take it off of here and actually put the pen together. Okay, so here's all the components laid out. The blank is oriented the way that I had it on the thing. So this is the bottom and this is the very top. Once it's all done, you got your pen tip, you got a barrel connector thing here, you've got, this is the clip with the top that goes on it, this is the actual pen mechanism, and then your inkwell. From Wood River, they have one of these fancy pen presses. Of course I got it backwards for me because I'm right-handed, not left-handed. But next thing is to put the pen together. So let me figure out how to get you guys mounted and we'll go from there. I think that'll work pretty good. First step is to put, and I've done these, hundreds of these, so maybe not hundreds, but a lot. So first part is to put that in there and gently press it till it seats in. The next step, this is the inkwell mechanism. So just to show you, your inkwell goes in here and screws in, and then once it's set in there, there it goes, it turns to advance the inkwell. This goes in the other end of the top. I'm going to start it and show you. So there's the brass, and then there's this line right here. I don't know how well you can see it. Typically you go into that line or thereabouts. So what I do is get it close, and then I'll put the inkwell in and test it and see if I'm getting the inkwell sticking out the end far enough, the tip of the pen. So that's all the way out, and that's not bad. I like mine to stick out a little more, so I'm going to go just a smidge farther with it. So take the inkwell back out. There we go. I went maybe a millimeter. I mean, I didn't go very far at all. And see how much difference that makes. The big thing is the pen tip is still gone, you know, inside when you crank it back. So this goes on here, and we're ready to deal with our top. So we've got this piece, this goes in here, and then this goes in the top there. Ooh, that's actually, I was able to press that in with my fingers, so that tells me that's probably not going to hold. Let's see. Yeah, it's going to stay. Alright, cool. And then this goes on here. It does. It really does. There we go. And then there's your pen.